Hi, I'm Andrea and welcome to Productive C#. In this video, I want to show you how to write a very simple web API using ASP.NET Core. Open Visual Studio, create a new project, and specify ASP.NET Core Web API. Click Next, give it a name. Then you can specify the target framework. In my case, I'm using .NET 5. I'm currently disabling the authentication, but I'm keeping OpenAPI support enabled. This will automatically generate for me documentation about my API. I'm going to show you in a moment. So let me close this and show you what Visual Studio generates. There's a lot of plumbing that you don't need to worry about, but it's the same for every ASP.NET Core application. There's a program class with a main that creates the host builder and run it. And then it specifies the startup that contains the configuration. There are two methods in startup: configure services, that basically configure all the services required in order to be able to use controllers in ASP.NET Core. We're going to show you in a moment. And also there is add Swagger generation that add the support for automatically documenting your API. In configure, we are just configuring the solution for development and show exception in case something happens. And also configure an endpoint on /Swagger that contains the documentation. Is enabling routing and then mapping controllers. All of this is required in order for ASP.NET Core to successfully find the API that we're going to expose. But the only thing you really need to care about is the controllers folder and what you add in it. Names controller is basically the main code of my API. So what I want to do is create a simple API that allows you to get a list of names, add names, and remove names. Simple as that. So in order to create an API, you need to create a class that implements controller base. You can see I'm using the API controller attribute in order to let the ASP.NET Core framework knows that this is a controller that will be responsible for answering HTTP requests. I'm specifying which URL I want to use for this controller. I'm using API / and then controller is basically taking names from the class. Then I have three methods: get, post, and delete. Each one of those decorated with attributes: HTTP get, HTTP post, HTTP delete. Super straightforward. Get is returning a list of names. I'm currently using a simple static read-only list of strings, but I could access a database or do whatever I want inside the class. Post is taking a parameter, name, and is adding the name to the list, and delete is simply removing it. Fairly straightforward code, but for you, it looks like a class with some methods, but then this is effectively going to build an HTTP endpoint. Let's run it and see what happens. I press F5. I'm going to open the browser now in a temporarily localhost endpoint on a particular port. And then automatically, you can see we are opening this /Swagger endpoint that will automatically show you the documentation about your API. You can see there is names, that's your API with all the three endpoints: get, post, and delete. And you can even actually try out the API. Let's try. Let's go to post, click try it out, specify my name, and I'm going to add myself to the list. As you can see, this is the URL that we use to do the request. API /names, specifying Andrea's name in the query string. And the UI basically does the request for us. And it's a success. I'm going to add something else. Let me add Stefano as well on the list. Now I can go back to the GET request, run it, and see that we get Andrea and Stefano as the response. So the two names has been added successfully. And I can also click delete and delete myself, Andrea, from the list. Go back to GET, execute it, and you can see that Stefano is gone. Super simple, right? So, and obviously you're running Visual Studio. I'm debugging. If I want, I can add a breakpoint in post. I want to try to add another myself again. Press execute, and you have full debugging support in Visual Studio for your API as well. So that's pretty much it. So if you If you know how to use C#, getting started with ASP.NET Core is extremely simple. So building a web API is just a matter of creating a class with some methods, use the HTTP GET, HTTP POST, HTTP DELETE attributes in order to specify which kind of HTTP method you want to use, and then automatically the framework will do all the work for you. You only need to worry about writing the code that implements your API. And you also can use Swagger to automatically build documentation for your API that you can use to test your endpoints during development. That is extremely useful. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching.